Chicago mayor taxes poor residents to pay $600 million migrant bill. So that's great for Chicago and its residents. Well, this is great, right? This is exactly what the people asked for, right? Like we all wanted to pay this bill for these random people. Yeah, that's great. Makes me feel great.
Right, Marie, we're talking about a $1 billion deficit for 2026, and the city's budget director warned that is an optimistic outlook for the future.
I'm standing here tonight with buyer's remorse because I supported Mayor Brandon Johnson. I feel like a fool right now. I feel like a plum fool.
Now to NBC5 investigates which.
They found out that he cares more about immigrants than his own community. That's just real shit. Mayor Johnson can give a rat's ass about how Chicago's residents are, and it's just like people have been so blinded in Chicago to vote Democrat their entire life. Now, granted, there's been a little bit of like the race game when it comes to that. Like, you know, they've told everyone that black people had to vote for Democrats, and that's the only way that they're able to do it. And yeah, for a while that did kind of work. I mean, the numbers don't lie. But now we're seeing, and I've noticed this now for the last year minimum, of the black community specifically really vocalizing their complaints. They're sick of it. And just like any other Chicago resident, everyone else is sick of it as well. He's a clown. He has no idea what he's doing. It makes it seem like that I can do the fucking job after watching how these people react. And it's just like, what point, man, are you going to just wake up and smell the roses and realize just resign? Like, he should either resign. I wish we can call an election now. Like, I wish we had that ability just to go, nope, we need a new election. Because this guy has no idea what he's doing. He doesn't. He's ruined this city more times over. He lets kids just take over downtown. He doesn't believe we should do any punishments. He doesn't support the police department. He doesn't care for Chicago residents. He increases taxes left and right. He's horrible. He's been one of the worst mayors ever. I don't think we'll get I don't believe we can get. I thought Mayor Lightfoot was bad. He makes her look like a good mayor. He makes Manuel look like a great mayor. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I never thought that I'd be saying that Robert Manuel is actually not a bad mayor now when you look at the fucking hindsight. It's like, oh my God, like, this city is so lost.
For months has followed the money trail tied to Chicago's migrant mission. Total spending now tops more than $400 million.
Without significant shifts in how we balance our budget, the services that the people of Chicago have begun to rely upon, they would certainly be in jeopardy.
Whose problem
so
is
the mayor
that?
of Chicago spent $600 million of taxpayer money on illegal migrants. Now that bill has come due and he wants to raise taxes so he can cover his behind. Let's talk about it.
I can't believe it. This is we're in
All
such
right,
a
so
mess.
this
Like,
is the
what,
57th
3 years,
mayor
2
of
years?
Chicago, Brandon Johnson. Now, I don't have to tell you, Chicago is a Democrat stronghold. And he goes all in on Democrat policies. Like, this guy doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. Now, Brandon Johnson took office during the migrant crisis. Now, for those of you with short memories, when Biden was president, he opened up the borders, allowing millions of people to cross the borders illegally.
Tonight, nearly 10,000 migrants a day. That is what
Democrats did that because they were losing in the populations of their state because people were moving to red states, and they were afraid that Republicans would gain a lot more seats than they should have, than they could. You know, they didn't want them to win a lot of seats. Yeah, so they allowed millions of people because the census, it's not per citizen, it's per person. So they just count bodies. So obviously if Democrats can flood states like California, New York, Chicago, then yeah, you can kind of keep those states one way and you keep your populations up and everything looks good and no issues. And yeah, this is all a mission to try to buy voters. They want to legalize new voters. Don't be surprised if you'll see a grand amnesty. We saw Reagan do it, and look what happened with California.
federal officials say they are encountering at the U.S. southern border on average in December. That's among the highest numbers ever recorded. And with multiple border entry points remaining closed as the surge at the southern border escalates, U.S. officials now warning that the situation is nearing a, quote, breaking point.
3 years ago, 689 Chinese migrants crossed the southern border. Last year, that number soared to over 37,000. Part of an explosion of migrants coming here from all over the globe.
Now, even though all of that was happening,
the highest skilled labor ones, by the way.
In for the migrants.
We know the strength of a city is determined by how we treat the most vulnerable. And so we choose to be a strong city. We must reject a zero-sum formulation between investing in those who have been here for decades and supporting those who have been sit here on a bus even this morning. We can do both, Chicago.
No, we cannot.
And we can all thrive together.
Now, what is your...
We literally cannot. Unfortunately, people in Chicago are struggling to afford living. People are trying to survive. So now you want to come over here, or you want to get elected mayor because you won because of the teachers union. People got to remember that this guy was really a part of that, and the teachers union in Chicago is really strong. Probably one of the most powerful political forces we have here. So it's no surprising that he came up through that way. Once he won the support of the teachers, he got to pretty much lock in for the office. And the fact that he's like, no, because this is how I hear that. It's like, no, we don't value American citizens, or in this case, Chicago residents. We would rather care and spend and give 3 meals a day and give places to stay with immigrants, people who've never paid taxes. And, in this case, these are people who just got over here. They haven't done anything. They haven't done anything to get all these benefits. When we got literally people, I've been in Chicago not too long ago, and I can tell you all the homeless that's over there. We still got it here. So why don't we help those the needless and vulnerable there? Because that's what he's saying. You would rather care about those other people, but not them.
Referring to is that the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, started shipping migrants to sanctuary cities, places that said they wanted more migrants, and Chicago was one of those places.
Local officials whose communities are being overwhelmed by hordes of illegal immigrants who are being dropped off by the Biden administration. Texas is providing charter buses to send these illegal immigrants who have been dropped off by the Biden administration to Washington, D.C. We are sending them to the United States Capitol, where the Biden administration will be able to more immediately address the needs of the people that they are.
This was actually a great move here. Because he's like, look, if you guys want us to deal with it, we'll make everyone else deal with it. I get it. It affected my city, but hey, look, I get it at the end of the day.
Allowing to come across our border.
Now, the same message was coming from other liberal states, like New York, where the governor essentially begged migrants to come to New York.
We want people to come here, despite where they came from or despite the circumstances that drove them to this country and to this state. We say you are welcome here. We are welcome with open arms, and we'll work to keep you safe. We'll not only house you, but we'll protect you. And the richness of the culture and the diversity and the food and the restaurants that we know are going to be coming because of these efforts are beyond measure. It's an extraordinary part of our story, and it's woven into the story of New York, and it makes us more vibrant.
Now, this virtual
it's like, yeah, yes and no, but like New York, like originally the people never signed up for that crap, dude. Now because it's a political point against Trump, they're all on board with it. That's what happened.
Signaling was great for politics, and since almost no migrants were coming to New York and Chicago, but were all staying at the southern border, then they could call the Republicans racist, and they could deny that stricter border policy was necessary. There were no consequences. But the governors in those border states came up with a solution. If cities like Chicago and New York wanted illegal immigrants, then let's send them there. This was a win-win. Those cities get the migrants, and they also get the problem that come with those migrants. But now here's the rub. When all those migrants started showing up to these liberal sanctuary cities, all hell broke loose, and they started declaring states of emergency. How are we going to take care of all these people?
This morning, the mayor of Washington, D.C. has requested the help of the National Guard to assist with the buses of migrants arriving to her city.
Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey has declared a state of emergency to address the state's growing migrant crisis.
Yeah, now it's a problem because you guys got to deal with it, right? Like, they could just talk very highly when they're miles away from that border. They don't have to care about it, but now they cared. Kind of, sort of.
The governor says there are over 20,000 people being temporarily housed across the state.
Our top story, another bus of migrants arrived today in Los Angeles and were taken to St. Anthony's Croatian Church for processing.
Back in New York, the mayor had a stark message this month.
I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City.
And increasingly,
and that's pretty much, unfortunately, how he lost that election, because he just called it how it was. Yeah, Mayor Adams wasn't going to go far, especially when it's such a Democrat stronghold now. It just wasn't possible for him. In their eyes, he was a Democrat that turned to a Republican because he was buddies with Trump. All right, he became buddies with Trump.
The migrant crisis is being felt far from the border, including cities like Chicago, where officials say resources are running thin.
Now, it's interesting that the liberals in the sanctuary cities turned this into a racism issue and said if you didn't want to take care of migrants, you were a racist. And Brandon Johnson went all in,
he's
spending
king of
up
that.
to $600 million in taxpayer money taking care of migrants.
The immigration crisis has strained city and state resources. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson defending spending taxpayer dollars on maintaining a welcoming city while being interrogated by the House Oversight Committee in Washington today.
You're the mayor of Chicago.
Oh, this was embarrassing.
Do you think that your residents or the residents of your state should be paying for that more than they should be paying for their own needs, their own roads, their own public safety?
The people of Chicago elected me as the 57th mayor of the city of Chicago, and we serve all the residents of the city of Chicago.
You do not.
But that service comes with a cost. According to data obtained by the ABC 7i team, since September of 2022, the city has paid out $638.7 million in vendor contracts for...
See, imagine if we actually took that money and invested it into the west side of the city, the south side of the city. We maybe built rehabilitation centers to help clean up some of the druggies that are on the streets. Like, we could have utilized that money in a lot of better ways, but we just chose to burn it.
New arrivals.
Mayor Johnson, in the last 4 years, how much has Chicago spent on care for illegal aliens?
No idea.
So since 2022, since the governor of Texas was shipping individuals to cities across this country, the city's budget, roughly 1% of the city's budget over the course of 4 years.
That 1% comes out to about $625 million over the past 4 years.
So now the mayor of the city of Chicago has spent $600 million on illegal immigrants in Chicago. But that bill has come due, so it has to be paid for. Brandon Johnson said, hey, I'm a Democrat. I know what to do. We're going to raise property taxes. But there was a problem. He had promised all during the campaign that he would not raise property tax.
Oh, he already lied. Yeah, he lied about that multiple times.
About budgets, because everywhere you've gone, you have failed. Look, I'm not going to raise property taxes. There is no income tax in my plan. He's being dishonest.
I won't raise your property taxes.
Then candidate for mayor, Brandon Johnson.
The people of Chicago want to know, will you raise a tax, whether it be a property tax or implement something else?
Well, it's interesting. No one has ever asked me if I'm going to raise a tax.
In January, we sat down and asked the mayor multiple times if he'd use a property tax increase.
This is how he just deflates the questions, and he just goes into like the baiting. Like, he loves doing all the wordplay when he does this shit. He's great at it. Word salad, like Kamala 2.0 over here.
To pay for the city's debts. At the time, one of the biggest concerns was paying for the migrant crisis.
So you can commit to you not raising property taxes, regardless of how bad the situation gets.
My budget, the $16.77 billion that I just passed, 41 alders, I believe, supported this budget. And we did all of that without raising property taxes. The evidence is in what I passed. We made all of these investments without raising property taxes.
All right, before we get into the rest of the story, let me pay some bills with a message from our sponsor, Plod. All right, you see this?
Fair enough.
It looks like a platinum credit card, right? No, it's a new secret weapon. It's called Plod Note, and it generally changed how I work. As a lawyer, my days are packed with meetings, calls, case prep, etc. I used to take notes by hand and hope I didn't miss something important. Keeping up was exhausting. Plod Note captures everything with crystal clear audio from up to 10 feet away. Even in noisy places, the noise cancellation is rock solid. It automatically transcribes everything into clean, accurate text. Then it creates a structured summary with key points and action items. I don't type anymore. I don't write. I just review. As an example, if I'm doing a 10-hour deposition, I'll ask Plod to list all witnesses mentioned in this deposition and their roles, and boom, it instantly gives me results. Even drafts follow-up emails. So you want specs? You get up to 30 hours of continuous recording and up to 60 days of standby.
Yeah,
That's enough for at
that
least 10 full
easily.
meetings without thinking about it. And for all you privacy folks out there, relax. Plod meets enterprise-grade encryption standards. Even my kid loves it.
Yeah, because it helps my dad remember stuff.
If you're serious about having smarter meetings and saving hours every week, grab Plod Note. Hit the link in the description or the pinned comment and start working smarter, not harder.
Thank you to Plod for sponsoring this video.
Hold on, I almost forgot. From January 22nd to January 28th, that's this week, you get an extra 20% off if you go to the link in the description and the pinned comment. That's an extra 20% off Plod Note. So now, after spending $600 million on illegal immigrants, Brandon Johnson made a U-turn and said, I gotta raise property taxes by 3.
Well, because it's hard for them to raise corporate taxes because all the businesses are dying and leaving because it's so not business friendly there. So like that's what happened. I mean, usually you just kind of, put it on the corporations a little bit, and that's kind of how they get away with it. But if there's not enough businesses there and you don't want to continue to drive out business, you got to put it on the people. So this issue is like could have been clear as day for us to go, yeah, no, you're great. We'll temporarily house you until we figure out how to get you back. That's what they should have done. Not just continuously pay for everything and overdo it just because you just felt like you needed to do it. It's so stupid.
$300 million, essentially forcing the taxpayers to come out of pocket and pay for his generosity toward migrants.
Mayor Brandon Johnson was more than 40 minutes into his speech before he broke the bad news to homeowners across the city.
This budget currently includes a property tax increase of $300 million to fund and keep our commitment to fund not just our pension contributions, but to fund the future of our city.
Now, this was so unpopular in Chicago that the city council unanimously threw it out, and Brandon Johnson had to find another way.
But first, breaking news at City Hall. Mayor Brandon Johnson's property tax hike is rejected by City Council.
It is unanimous. Every single alderperson voted it down, the mayor's $300 million property tax proposal. They say they have plenty of ideas. Now Mayor Brandon Johnson is going to be forced to listen to them.
Then the mayor of Chicago decided, hey, you know what? Let's just take out a payday loan. High interest rate, but we need this money now because we got to continue to take care of migrants.
All right, so let's take a closer look at the main issue.
$830 million for infrastructure projects, interest-only payments starting in 2027, principal payments start in 2045, $2 billion cost to taxpayers. Yep, this is what you get if you keep voting Democrat in Chicago. It's almost making this state just unlivable. I don't see any future, unfortunately, in Illinois and Chicago. It doesn't look like that it's going to even be possible anymore. It's unfortunate the way they're killing this state, and it's unfortunate that people don't even realize it, and they continue just to vote with their emotions. And like, I can separate federally and local, right? I recognize that, yeah, like Democrats in Illinois are horrible people. But Democrats in Kansas aren't that bad because the way it's just a little different. A lot of my buddies from Kansas are actually Democrat. And the way they explain it to me, I get it. It's because they live in a Republican state and they've only seen a lot of their issues have been more geared towards Republicans. That makes sense. But even those Republicans have not fucked up Kansas the way Chicago and Illinois have been destroyed. And especially with this migrant issue that's made it pretty much just like sped up all of our problems. Like we were going on this line and then everything just went up and up and up, and now it's going on a crash. It's going just up, up, up. It's just not going to stop. It's going to keep getting worse. We're going to it doesn't look there's a light at the end of the tunnel here. And it's sad. And we have to wait now pretty much for this mayor to just have an election, which sucks.
Structure of the deal. It's $830 million in borrowed funds for things like construction projects, transportation, building maintenance, but it will cost taxpayers at least $2 billion when all is said and done. Under the original plan, the city would make interest-only payments starting in 2027, but the city wouldn't make any.
It's just like when Mayor Daley sold the parking meters. Daley 2, there was 2 of them. For people who don't know, he sold the parking meters back in like 2008. Because of the the market, everything crashed, and now they were looking to potentially buy that back recently, actually, like just as of, I think a few weeks ago, not even, they were attempting, like maybe last week I heard they were trying to buy it back, but it was just too expensive now. So we can't even afford to purchase back our parking meters, and we can't. That's just where the mess that we're at here. And it's really, we got to blame the politicians, and it's unfortunate for Democrats that you can't really blame the Republicans in this situation because they've never really been in the power. It's kind of sucked. We don't have really equal representation in the state.
Principal payments until 2045. That's 20 years from now. Majorly inflating costs.
So the mayor...
Yeah, putting it on the future generation that's going to have to pay that bill. The classic American way.
Says, hey, we're going to borrow $800 million now. We'll pay back $2 billion. And by the time you have to pay the money back, it'll be 20 years from now. And don't worry, I won't be around. So raising property taxes was rejected. The payday loan to close this budget gap was rejected. They did take a payday loan out, but just for infrastructure. They actually didn't take the one out to close the budget gap. So you still have this budget gap. So Mayor Johnson went to a tried and true argument that Democrats have been using for years. Tax the rich.
The city is grappling with a $1.1 billion budget shortfall, and Mayor Johnson says one of the ways he plans...
Like, I'm okay increasing taxes on the rich to an extent. Like, if you look at the 1950s and how high the rich were taxed and how high corporate taxes were, like, they did. Like, there was a benefit to it at the time. I just think the problem is it's a negative. It's not really going to do anything. Like, if the state's already trash and it's like, well, I got to pay so much money to keep my house or, rent, whatever you're doing, in property taxes or rent bills. I got to, my electricity's high because of all the data centers that have been built recently. So we got to pay for that crap. And then we have to pay the bill for that. So you want to increase my taxes again. Why am I staying here? And then you want to tax my income personally, probably. So why would I want to stay here? Like, why would a rich they always act like rich people can't just up and move. They can. A lot of them could. It's not that hard for them when you got money. You can just buy something somewhere else. Some of them don't want to because they love their cities. But, you're going to put people in a bad spot and they're going to want to leave.
Plans to close that gap is to target the ultra-rich.
It's historically have been balanced on the backs of black, brown, and working people in Chicago. And it is
there he is with the race game again.
That we reject that form of budgeting and then begin to pursue what I believe is more of a righteous budget.
So $300 million in property taxes didn't work. You can't get the payday loan. So we're back to square one with the Democrats in office. Let's just tax the rich.
Baiting the 2026 budget. But there's a big sticking point, a tax on the biggest companies in Chicago.
I'm a hard no on the head tax, and I think yesterday's vote.
It was like $20 or the company said to pay $20 per employee. I think it was like you had to have like a minimum of like, I don't know if it was like 200 employees or something along that lines. But yeah, imagine per month you have to pay an extra head count. Chicago used to have that back in like 2013, I believe. Manuel got rid of it. 2014 he got rid of it because he was killing business, and he was right.
Indicates that the majority of at least the finance committee feel the same way.
The corporate tax is in this budget. It will stay in this budget.
That was Mayor Brandon Johnson Monday after the finance committee rejected his revenue ideas.
And the mayor drawing the line, he's promised he would veto any budget that has an increase in grocery tax or property tax increase.
Now, the city council in Chicago said the mayor's crazy. He just wants to essentially kill jobs, and his budget will destroy the city. So they passed what's known as the alternative budget. Here are the details.
Today's vote came during a rare Saturday session. The alternative $16.6 billion budget proposal, championed by a group of aldermen, relies heavily on an increase in the city's plastic bag tax, rideshare tax, and liquor sales tax, while adding video gaming and restaurants and advertising.
The gambling tax was stupid. The sin taxing on tobacco and other nicotine products was stupid. They're just trying to make everything and anything, like, you can't let people just do whatever they can't let people enjoy life anymore. They want to tax every little bit about you. And that's the thing. That's one thing I noticed when I went from Illinois to Kansas. Kansas did not have nearly as much tax on little shit. I remember when my parents were telling me they were paying close to $4 or whatever for gas, and I'm like, well, I'm paying, like, at the time it was under Biden, I was paying like $2.80, and And I was like, Kansas, it wasn't that bad, but it was still high. Like all the Kansas guys were really complaining about the gas, and I'm like, dog, if you go back to Illinois, man, you guys would understand where real problems are. But that's on the state tax, and we can all blame Pritzker for that one. I think it was like 29 cents before he got elected, and now it's at like 47 cents. The tax on that.
To light poles and city vehicles.
We take nothing for granted here. We're proud of the work of this coalition. And as I've stated many, many times, I don't believe that there's one member of council who wants to see a government shutdown.
The budget by the alders also proposes bringing in nearly $90 million from selling some debt owed to the city for unpaid fees and fines, a proposal the mayor and his supporters have called immoral. The administration says the alternate proposal will lead to a projected $163 million deficit in 2026.
Now, in a shocking twist of irony,
but keep paying for the immigrants, right? Because we can afford that.
Mayor was found to have owed thousands and thousands of dollars to the city because for some reason he just decided not to pay for his sewer and water bills.
From 2023, days before the election.
Here's what he owes: $3,357.04 in unpaid charges and almost 8 months of not paying this.
This should have been the writing on the wall here.
City. He finally did pay on February 13th, 2023, but only $91.08. According to Capitol Facts, he has a history of not paying his city bills. Since 2010, he racked up more than $6,601 in fines and penalties.
And people were okay with this guy being our mayor?
On top of that, he still owes $1,044.58 for unpaid traffic tickets dating back to 2014 and 2015. We asked Johnson how he's responding.
We're on a payment plan, like a lot of families in the city of Chicago.
And to that person who might say, hey, if you haven't paid this bill, how can you oversee such a city like Chicago when it comes to billions and millions of dollars?
I've managed multi-billion-dollar budgets as a
But you can't pay your own water bill? Like, come on, dude.
Cook County Commissioner. We pay our car note, we pay our mortgage, we pay for school supplies, and
just not the water
we're
bill.
On a payment plan.
Now, the budget that was actually passed by the city council needed to be signed by the mayor, but the mayor didn't sign it, nor did he veto it. He just let it go into effect without a signature.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
So you're not signing the budget, you're not vetoing the budget. Why not sign it? You got 98% of what you wanted.
Well, because there are some elements of this budget that, quite frankly, I don't want to give a signal to the people of Chicago that I support what I believe is one of the most detrimental and immoral aspects of this budget.
Now, you need to understand where we're at right now. Essentially, Chicago raised taxes on the poor. They raised shopping bag taxes and Uber rides, and if you want booze or online gaming, they raised those taxes. And those taxes are going to disproportionately affect the poor people. People who are working paycheck to paycheck are going to have to pay more for shopping bags, for instance, where if you're millionaires, you don't have to. And those poor people are paying for Brandon Johnson's $600 million migrants, right? That's what they're covering. And the people of Chicago understand that. That's why Mayor Johnson has some of the worst poll numbers.
I think he's less than that, honestly. I thought he was at 6%. I mean, I don't know. I've never heard one person been like, yeah, this guy's great.
Numbers in the history of polls.
Mayor Brandon Johnson still has time to turn things around before the 2027 election, and this poll is an improvement from an earlier one in which his approval ratings were in the single digits. Nevertheless, political observers say the mayor appears to be in trouble. There is a cloud hanging over City Hall, and it could be called approval ratings. A new poll on the mayor's popularity by the University of Chicago Mansueto Institute for Urban Innovation shows that citywide, only 26% of residents approve of the way Johnson is handling the job of mayor, while 58% disapprove.
I think he misjudged the voter when he thought that he could coast on the promises that he made, that he could coast on his agenda. He has to deliver, and people are expecting that. And so far, the poll shows people are disappointed.
The poll shows Johnson's popularity is underwater with every age and income group. Even though he's made affordable housing a key focus, he is also struggling with voters of every race. Even his political base views him unfavorably by 4 percentage points.
So at the end of the day, it's the people of Chicago who are going to pay for Mayor Johnson's generosity. $600 million to migrants. But the question is, do you think they're going to vote him back in the office because he's running for re-election and he wants to be the mayor for another 4 years? If they do, good luck to them, because he has been a disaster.
I hope we don't.
I'm standing here tonight with buyer's remorse because I supported Mayor Brandon Johnson. I feel like a fool right now. I feel like a plum fool. But I tell you what, it's okay, because as I said last night, you can slap us in the face by ignoring us today, but we are punching you in the face by ignoring you at the polling places tomorrow.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'm out. Peace.
Yeah, this is no surprising that this is just so sad, to be honest with you. The fact that now people are waking up, but the fact that people before the election didn't realize that what they were potentially voting for is honestly kind of scary. And it just shows that not a lot of people really did their research. Because I think if people would have looked into him and they would have just saw all that crap and it would have been like, nah, he's not worth it. But at the end of the day, the voters voted and now we have to deal with it. All you can do is just judge, critique, criticize, and everyone's looks like we have to continue, make sure you keep paying your taxes, else that's going to be a problem, right? So I don't really understand at this point what's going to happen. Maybe Mayor Johnson's going to turn it around and he'll get good favor in the city before, maybe he needs to find some easy win somewhere if he's trying to run for a re-election. I don't see how he's going to do that. And maybe we could see a potential opportunity for, if the Republicans weirdly focus on New York, Chicago, because New York's long gone. We may never see a Republican candidate there again. I think Chicago may be interesting. I think if enough people now have experienced this shit and now they're like, look, at some point we got to maybe listen to the other side. I think that could potentially happen. I think we're seeing that, and we're seeing more people get annoyed. And I think this immigration issue, specifically for the black community, was for sure a catalyst, because they were putting them in their communities. That's where a lot of these immigrants were going. And I remember there was reports that they were trying to use school gyms to house them, just for beds, and that caused a lot of issues for people. So it's just, this issue put a lot more pressure on the city when it just didn't need to be there, because it really couldn't afford it. The city was already dealing with issues, and now you want to add on this massive bill that now we all have to pay for. That's not fair. And that's going to go to the whole state of Illinois. That won't just be in Chicago, unfortunately, because that's just how that works. Illinois, the entire state has to subsidize Chicago pretty much. And the state has already broke itself, so it's not like they can get a magical bailout from Illinois. Ain't how that's going to work. We're not one of those states. A lot of bad business decisions happening in Illinois. And, Pritzker, you got to blame Pritzker, too, for allowing Chicago to get this bad, because he lives there, guys. Remember, he walks there at 6 a.m. in the morning, so he's very much in tune to what's going on downtown, and he just chooses to ignore it. So I don't get it why people just continue to vote for the same party if there's no change or whatever. I don't know. I don't really see benefits right now in voting Democrat in 27. I don't. For the election, it makes no sense. I don't know why people would for Chicago. So who knows? It's been interesting. Maybe the budget will turn out great, but it doesn't look like it will. And it looks like people are still paying a bill. And it doesn't look like the immigrant issue in Chicago financially is going to go away anytime soon. So, all right, guys, if you like watching this, please subscribe and like for more. I do try to be consistent with these uploads. So, yeah, I like to kind of gauge on what people like and what they don't like. So, yeah, that's about it. I don't think I got anything on my bulletin board today. Follow me on my socials if you guys are interested in that. So, have a good one. Be safe. Be good. Don't do anything stupid. Peace out.